and I got involved in DMR when they put the first machine out there in
Dennis in the hotspot.
in the hotspot. Back in probably '08, I think, when they put the one downtown the plaza.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that time, and then something happened and it went off, and I couldn't get into it, and then I sold my radio. And then this whole thing called Brandmeister came around, which is completely different than what the DMR was back then. So back then you had a couple channels you could use, and it was really kind of, I don't know, I didn't want to hear worldwide traffic all day long, so I shut it off. I wanted to talk to people local. Well, Brandmeister's changed that a lot. So Chuck, if you want to get started, do you have a power cord for your computer or anything?
I've got a power, but it should be charged up, and I talk more than I use the computer anyway. And with that, let me grab my bottle of water. Bear with me, folks. I quit smoking back in March after 20 years, and RJ Reynolds stock has gone in the tank, but Trident has gone through the roof. So, I'm kind of at edge a couple times here. Anyway, good evening. I'm Chuck, K0XM out of Kansas City. Thanks for having me come down.
You may have to pause for the talk about what we do there too.
That's fine.
They like to talk during our meetings.
Let me get light on this before it pops up there. Okay. We on? Yes, we're on.
Yep, good.
Okay. Anyway, as James probably told you guys, I'm one of the co-founders of the Backyard Repeater Group. I don't know how many are familiar with us up in Kansas City, but we started back, Jay is, of course. First of all, I'm not responsible for Jay moving down here, so do not hold that directly. Do not throw anything towards me. He did that on his own. We've been putting repeaters on since the mid-'80s. Back when Bob and Lee and I started, there were only 5 UHF repeaters on the Kansas City area, and none of them were owned by clubs. They were all individuals. They were all in the backyard. Hence, and the development of the Backyard Repeater Group came along this way. Now, are we on Facebook right now?
Yeah.
Okay, for your Facebook viewers at home, don't adjust your monitor. There's a reason why I have a face for radio. So, anyway, one of the clubs put on a repeater at a commercial site. And one of the club officers was a pretty arrogant little cuss at the time, and he made the comment that his repeater was in the front yard and all of ours were in the backyard, taking it as a stab. Well, for those of you who know the Kansas City area, I'm a dot. I grew up in Wyandotte County in Kansas City, Kansas. My grandparents were original settlers, so we didn't take stabs too well. So I asked him where it was, and he told me, and it was in the dot. And I said, well, I'm sorry, Ken, that in the dot, our good stuff's in the backyard and stuff in the front yard's waiting for Death Ball to come by. And we took the name Backyard Repeater Group and ran with it. And we've come up with the outstanding logo with the outhouse and the tower. Anyway, we've been putting repeaters on analog on 2 meters, 220, 440, 900. We've even got a 1.2 sitting somewhere. I don't even know if it's on the air. But it got stale. And I am a field rat, is the easiest way to put it, for Black and Beach. I spent a year in San Diego, and I got kind of playing with Fusion and 1.2 out there. And trust me, folks, because it's on a mountain doesn't mean it covers like a striped ass 8. It's not that, the repeaters don't cover that well out there like we expect. And then after San Diego, they sent me to New Jersey. Well, and the Backyard Group had put on the first D-Star repeater back in the year when it first came on in Kansas City, so I was familiar with D-Star, and I got to play with Fusion. So I had the radio program with no D-Star and Fusion in it because it was just an analog radio. And I'm rolling along, and all of a sudden I hear this junk coming out of the radio, so I'm sitting here looking at the handheld going, what the hell is this crap coming out of my radio? Hence, DMR to basics, or what's this crap coming out of my radio? So, come to find out it was DMR. Little research through Repeater Book, which I love and use heavily. Come to find out it was a K2 MAK system on the Empire State Building. Okay, I'm over in New Jersey. This thing's on the Empire State. 100-plus story building. I'll give them a little bit of credit, you know. So I did some research and I found this company called Connect Systems. Now this is before Titera flooded the market. which I'm sure there's a lot of these floating around in this room tonight. And so I ordered a Connect Systems radio, and they had a local dealer, and he had it all programmed up. I run around on this radio on a rubber duck, 65 miles away from the repeater, talking through it like I'm standing next to it. I come back to Kansas City, still not knowing very much about it. This was in 2015, fall of 2015. We have to register for a DMR mark number. At the time, there were 18,000 people worldwide in that database. Last week, that database contained 68,000 call signs. That's not repeaters, folks. That's users. It has grown that much. Anyway, the Backyard Repeater Group Technical Committee. I always have to show this. There's three of us, basically. There's myself, K0XM, Lee, K0LW, for those of you that do know Lee, and then there's Bob, W0NQX. What's DMR? DMR, first of all, it's not your dad's ham radio. How many of you have DMR radios? How many of you have programmed your DMR radios? How many of you have large bottles of Tylenol next to your programming computer? Yes. It's not your daddy's ham radio, but it does not play like your daddy's ham radio either. It's phenomenal. In my opinion, it's actually put the fun back into ham radio repeater building for us in the Backyard Group. It uses a commercial spec. It uses Tier 2. Now, the reason I say that is somebody asked up in Iowa on the Iowa DMR book group of the Baofeng DMR5 or DM5R. It won't do it, folks. Please save me and James and all the other DMR system users in the United States. Do not run Baofengs on a DMR repeater in the ham bands. Do not run Wushans at this time. I've got a list of the acceptable manufacturers. They have to follow this international DMR Tier 2 specifications. Now, what is that? Well, Tier 1 is basically a digital FRS radio. It's like a GMRS or FRS radio. It's fully digitized. Tier 2 is time domain multiple access. 2 time slots, 1 frequency. How many of you guys operate D-Star? And those of you that operate D-Star realize that once it hits past the mic element, it's totally digital from there on out. DMR is the same way. The difference between DMR and Fusion and D-Star is DMR on the same frequency allows you for 2 conversations at the same time. Tier 3 DMR you probably won't see in the United States in the hams because of the DMR trunking, and it costs a lot of money. And basically, due to the growth of ham radio or DMR and the cheap cost of the Chinese radio, we're cheapskates, guys. That's all there is to it. Okay. Here are some of the accepted DMR manufacturers. Now, you guys can take notes. This is going to be on a PowerPoint that James has got available that you can get this information. So save your camera rolls and stuff like this. I'll put them in a PDF format for James to download. Anyway, my favorites personally, well here, I gotta bring, I brought goodies. I brought lots of goodies. We'll explain this little jewel here in a little bit. Can you give me that computer bag down there? Yes, it's heavy. This is light compared to some of them. DMR radios. You can spend what you want. You can spend $750 on the Cadillac, the Motorola. This is the top of the line, guys. Bluetooth, GPS, the whole 9 yards. Or you can spend $500 on the cheapo Motorola. This is one of the cheap ones, but this antenna is a compromise. You're not going to work a repeater 40 miles away with this antenna. Trust me, I know. Or, hang on a second. You can do like everybody else and spend your 50 to 80 bucks on the TYT. There's a TYT. How many other TYTs do we have in the room? How do you guys like them?
Good. Don't know yet.
Good so far. Is it 2017 or is it dual band?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, they've just come out as a dual band. Be very leery of that antenna connector. That's the only complaint I've seen.
I was reading about that, yeah.
And turn the keyboard lock on, because trackball is the dumbest thing I've ever seen on a ham radio in my life. Okay, anyway, back to the dog and pony show. DMR basics. Since it's a digital codec, there's a company that produces a chip and a correlating software called AMDE codec. And what it does is DMR, Fusion, and D-Star all use the same thing, just different versions of the software. All the same chip. The nice thing about DMR is it uses less bandwidth and is more frequency spectrum generous, shall we say. Where wideband analog, DMR, or D-Star, and Fusion are normal channel bandwidth. Okay, you're going to have the same bandwidth on a repeater. DMR gets the same conveyance in half the bandwidth. So the signal, you can actually put closer repeater splits, and it'll allow for more effective use of the spectrum, which those of you that are involved or keep paying attention to public service, it's what the FCC is starting to strive for with narrowbanding and the whole 9 yards. That's why there's a lot of them repeaters and radios out there, Motorola's and stuff, going real cheap that aren't that old. It's because of narrowbanding. Now, the key about DMR is it allows 2 conversations at the same time on the same repeater, on the same frequencies, simultaneously. How does it do that? DMR radios do not transmit a continual carrier. When you key it, it chops it into 30 millisecond windows. It alternates between the 2 time slots. This would be red would be one user, blue would be the other user. If there's only one time slot being used, then red or blue by itself is coming out of, just for general purposes, coming out of the user's radio. It's either on time slot 1 or time slot 2. You do not transmit on both time slots at the same time. The Baofeng DM5R does. That's why they need to be door stops or wheel chucks or bookend holders or something like that. They do not need to be turned on the ham bands, because they do transmit on both time slots at the same time. And that causes headaches like you wouldn't believe. Also, because of the pulsing, your batteries last longer. They're perfect for public service events. You that carried 5 batteries for an MS-150 or something like that, you can get it done in a battery. The newer radios, 1-2 days with minimal use before recharges. I've never seen that in probably the history. You've always had to recharge a radio or a battery pack somewhere in an 8-hour time span in ham radio. Commercial radio too. DMR has the advantage of hearing over weak signals. This has been validated. You can watch, and I'll show you what they call a dashboard. I have signals, a normal noise floor at one of the BYRG repeater site is about a minus 128 dBm of noise on a repeater itself. There's a way that we can do a monitor with Motorola software. 4 dBm or just a smidgen above that, you've got guys talking and they're showing up as S0, no S meter unit on the dashboard, and it's like they're standing right next to the repeater. DMR's algorithm takes it and keeps retrying until it cleans it up before it spits it out to the other users. You're either in or you're out. There's no maybe on DMR. Occasionally, you'll hear an R2D2. That's due to some multipath or something like that. It's not due to a really noisy signal. It's due to that every now and then it's not perfect. It doesn't walk on water. It's going to have a hiccup, but it's not like D-Star. It's not like Fusion, where you'll be DMR or R2D2 on the lot. You're either in it or you're not on DMR. That's what makes it so nice. Here's the analogy we're using two users at the same time. User 1 keys up, the repeater comes up. Then user 2 decides to get active, and he's on here. But the key is, if you hear a DMR radio on an analog radio, you're going to hear the you'll hear pulsing off of a user's radio. On a repeater, you'll hear a continual tone. As soon as it comes up, it instantly starts transmitting on both time slots to talk to any radios out there. The user radios are the ones that pulse, the repeater stays up, and then it gives a hang time to tell everybody, hey, I'm getting ready to go back to sleep, okay? So that's basically the transmission analogy of it. Now, if you're monitoring power output out of a DMR mobile or handheld on a normal watt meter, you're not going to see the rated power. Why? It's because it reads the same as a single sideband transmitter. You need a PEP monitoring watt meter because of the pulsing. It's not a quote-unquote carrier, continual carrier like you would see on a normal FM radio. What happens during this also is the repeater is constantly exchanging information. It's taking the data, the audio that is digitized of your voice, your time slot, and your talk group information that's encapsulated in a 30 millisecond window. And it's reading it. If it reads it properly, then it'll transmit it out. If it doesn't, in the middle of your transmission, you can get what we call a blank tone. Now, how many watch Price is Right? You've heard of when somebody screws up, they give you that real annoying buzzer. That's similar to a blank tone on a DMR radio. If you hear that, anything like that, you're not making it, or you've fallen out of the repeater. It will let you know right away whether you're in the system or not. Now, I've got, this is my Terra, by the way. This is sold by PowerWorks. This is my workhorse radio. I'm on the Nixa repeater on the backyard repeater group, and you'll hear it. Wait a second. This won't do it. I'm going to do it on my Motorola. That one doesn't really chirp like a normal DMR radio. So, go here. If you will be. And guess what? Nixon's not in here. James, I'm going to borrow your radio. Okay? You heard the chirp. That says I've gotten into it. Now, I'm going to use my radio on a Kansas City channel. That's the blank. That tells me I'm not hitting the system. It's not getting an acknowledgement back from the repeater. Okay? So you're either into it or you're not. You'll either get a chirp or you won't. Okay? What's that?
I said, that sounds pretty nice. You
Oh,
don't
that-
have to have guessing as to whether you're actually hitting the repeater or not.
Right, and the nice thing about DMR is there's also, unfortunately, these don't follow the algorithm properly. They have a setting in the radio that we ask, repeater owners ask you to set, which I'll get into in a minute, that prevents you from talking over another person. It's going to tell you if the channel's busy. DMR is based on commercial radios. Here's the difference between the channels. Number one, on an analog channel, transmit, receive frequency, and PL. Standard for 2 meters, 220, 440, 6, whatever. DMR channels gets a lot more fun, folks. Transmit and receive frequency. Color code. What the hell is a color code? Guess what? Color code is the same as a PL, except it's a fancy word that they got tagged onto it for DMR. 90% of the repeaters in the United States are color code number 1. And then the Missouri Repeater Council comes along and they decide, we're going to split it up. How many of you guys had to reprogram your DMR radios in the last couple of weeks because of the shift to the color code? No, don't thank James. Thank me. He didn't know about it until I looked at the document better. I'm going, it says 4 here, it says 5 here, and I called him. So I'm the one to get hazed on this one, okay, guys? Transmit contact. Transmit contact is a key. You don't have a transmit contact, you don't talk. You do, but you don't talk to anybody that's going to be listening. You're going to be talking into the ether. You just well open up the coax on your radio because it ain't going to do you damn bit of good without that transmit contact. The key is you must enter your DMR mark number. Now, how much is that going to cost me? Guess what? It's free. You go to DMR mark, you register as a new user, and you get on that 67,000 and growing list. They give you a number. My number, I've got 2 of them. I got one for Kansas City, I got one for North Carolina when I was planning on moving out there. My Kansas City number is 312-0028. It's in the same one in every one of my radios. How many DMR mark numbers do I need? 1. Back in the day, people were getting 4 and 5. You'll pull up the Missouri list. you'll see the original DMR users have 4 and 5 DMR numbers. Don't need them, you need one. By the way, is anybody here from Rayfield Communications? Okay, I have to pay props to the people that originally did this. Rayfield Communications, W0WJB, N0MJS in the Kansas City area are the people that first got into DMR in Kansas City and down in this area in Springfield. I have to give the props to them. They actually set the basis for amateur radio DMR activity in Kansas and Missouri. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them to begin with. Okay, anyway, talk groups are mandatory. Talk groups are group calls. Kind of an older crowd. Party line, as opposed to a private call. We had telephone, we had a party line back in the day, back in the 60s, remember those? Group calls are like party lines. Or an analog repeater. Everybody can hear you, but guess what? They have to be programmed right, which means you have to be transmitting on that assigned talk group number, and they have to be listening on that assigned talk group number. Not only that, you both have to be on the same time slot. So that means I can't be talking on talk group 91 on time slot 1, and James is listening on 91 on time slot 2. We're not going to hear each other. Okay? You've got to have everything coordinated. Follow the SysOps layout of the time slots to talk groups. Please, people. Please, it creates headaches like you wouldn't believe. Private contacts, the only one that is required is what they call the parent. And I tell a little humorous story about the parent. As a SysOp, I can watch every transmission any time of the day or night, and it gives me who did it, how long they were on there, how strong they were in the repeater, what time slot they used, and what talk group they were talking on. Now, the parent is a private call, which means that it talks from my radio to the Brandmeister master server, and it comes back. Now, on Rayfield Communications on a DMR Mark system, it's a group call, which means that if you listen to the parent channel on the other Springfield DMR repeater, you can hear everybody testing their radios. Brandmeister got tired of hearing this test, 1, 2, 3, 4, so they made it a private call. You just talk to the computer talks back. We have people in Kansas City that have bought radios that do nothing but talk to themselves. The only talk group they use is the parent. I've never seen them on another talk group for any length of time. And we've had a few people that check it every day. Okay? So, if you want to spend that kind of money, talk to yourself. Knock yourself out. I'm not going to complain. The repeater's there. We'll put it on. Okay? Group contacts are needed for talk groups. Group contacts are assigned by the network administrators, either Brandmeister or DMR Mark. Private contacts are person-to-person QSOs. We don't say do not do private calls or private contacts. We ask you to minimize them because they are using resources on the repeater and nobody else can hear you except for the repeater sysops that have a monitor function in their radio or the people that have the hack firmware on the Titeras in promiscuous mode. Then we hear everything on that time slot, whether you want us to or not. Okay? Private contacts are devised by the DMR Mark number. In Europe, it's called CCS7. There are two types of talk groups. There are full-time, which means that any activity from anywhere in the world on that talk group will activate that talk group on your local repeater if it's set to full-time. Down here, it's Southwest Missouri and BYRG, right? Okay. So those two talk groups, anywhere. And it's just like up in Kansas City. All the backyard repeater groups and majority of the repeaters in Kansas City have backyard BYRG 31201 as a full-time talk group on the repeater. So when you guys key up down here, we got you up there, and when we key up, you guys got us down here. You don't want to listen to us change the channel. That's all there is to it. And trust me, I've heard some of the conversations. I'm sure there's a lot of channel changes going on. User activated. Now, what is so neat about a user activated? That means that there are talk groups that are out there asleep until you decide you want to talk on them. Now, in order to make things run smooth on a repeater, the sysop has to decide where do these talk groups reside, on time slot 1 or time slot 2. We have followed the principle that we want to keep all local communications, BYRG, which is our most active talk group, full-time on time slot 2 and by itself. We say put everything else on time slot 1. Now how can we do that? On Brandmeister, on DMR Mark stands for Digital Mobile Radio, Motorola Amateur Radio Club. They were the 4 founders of DMR Mark Network, or DMR Network in the United States, okay? And noting the name Motorola Amateur Radio Club, they said you had to be a Motorola repeater, you had to have a certain revision of firmware, and you had to follow our guidelines. It's their sandbox. It's great. It works. Trouble is, these guys in Europe were buying Hyteras or homebrewing DMR repeaters. They said, it ain't going to work for us. So a bunch of Russian hams and Finnish hams got together and they devised this thing called Brandmeister. It's just over a year old now. What Brandmeister did was he said, look, you got something that'll connect to our master server. We don't care. Use it. Okay? So that opened up for hotspots. That opened up for homebrew repeaters. That opened up for Hytera repeaters, which were on their own network and their own networking protocol, to be able to talk to Motorola's, which was Motorola's proprietary protocol. They threw everybody in the mix and made it one big happy family. They went one further though. On a DMR Mark repeater, one of the main components is what they call a C-bridge. And the reason I mentioned Rayfield Communications is they are one of the, if not the largest C-bridge manufacturer in the world. Okay? So what they do is you have a master server that takes all the DMR network off the internet. Then you have a C-bridge out there and a C-bridge administrator. I want to put a DMR Mark repeater on. I contact the C-bridge administrator and I say, I want these talk groups on these time slots. Okay? So let's say I want one full-time on slot 1 and I want, 3 talk groups on slot 2. That's all the users will get because that's the only thing that's coming off that C-bridge that's pointing towards my repeater. You don't get anything else. Brandmeister says, nah, that ain't working for us either. So what Brandmeister did was they got away with the C-bridge concept. And I'm not saying that it's bad or can't be changed, but it's not that easy. So Brandmeister, let me continue on here. This is basically how a C-bridge layout is for DMR Mark. It talks to Mark server. Brandmeister says, look, we're going to give you every talk group available on our network. We're going to send it to both your time slots, and you decide as a repeater owner what comes out where. Hence, we have had a problem where we had a talk group that was programmed by a user that was normally on slot 1. He put it on slot 2, so 3100 USA was on both our time slots when he was active on this one radio out of 5 that he had. And I saw it on the dashboard and I called him. I said, Rich, you got a problem? He goes, what? And I said, you got USA on slot 2? And he's going, no, I don't. I said, check your code plugs. And he come back. Yes, when he keyed up that one radio, and that was when USA was full time and we didn't have the capability of making it user activated, it would take both time slots and it would basically make it a single channel repeater. It'd wipe out the functionality of DMR just by one user having a misprogrammed code plug. Anyway, here's the Mark system. It gives you repeaters tied into a C-bridge, and then they're going to the master servers. This is a typical layout of DMR Mark. You're going to see these, and then the local. Those are pretty much fixed. You don't get any other options. There's our rock, folks. That's KY0 out of Kansas City. And Craig is like a rock on the DMR. This is our layout our early layout, we've expanded past this. This shows 3 repeaters. Then we talked to the Brandmeister server, and there are 40 master servers, and they're all intertied worldwide on Brandmeister with full redundancy. So when one master server goes down, ideally, others should pick it up. There have been some hiccups lately where a master goes down and it hasn't been rolled over to a redundant server, and they're working on it a lot. You gotta understand that, like us with the repeaters, we have lives, so do the Brandmeister folks, so we're not limited 24/7. We're not gonna jump right on it right away. Anyway, full-time and user activated. This is typical for the backyard repeater group. As a matter of fact, it's getting stripped down even more. Our full-time on slot 2 is backyard repeater group talk group. Now, how did that come about? We started talking to Brandmeister, and I sent N5QM, Ron, an email at the time we were thinking about putting on DMR repeaters. I said, what's the chance of making a backyard repeater group talk group? His reply was, here it is, 31201. That's how simple it was. So we were in, all I had to do was just program it into radios. So we locked it down on the slot 2. Now, can I get it on slot 1? Yeah. Do I want to? Not really. Okay. User activated, which means these are asleep. They're sitting there idle. These are not the only user activated on slot 1. There's 650 plus talk groups available on Brandmeister repeaters on both time slots that are asleep until we decide to wake them up. And then after you're done, 10 minutes after you're done, they go back to sleep in a standby status. As a system operator, we've decided to put Kansas and Missouri, because we straddle the line, as full-time, the statewide. We're going to be joining Southwest and soon the Northwest Missouri talk group. They're going to be full-time. Now, the key is, the more full-times we get, or the more users with a variety of user-activated talk groups on a certain time slot, sorry folks, somebody loses, okay? You can only have one talk group available on a time slot at a time for it to effectively work. So you're gonna lose, somebody's gonna have to get in line. Fortunately, even with the growth, we haven't run into that, but it can happen. You will get a reject tone, which tells you, try later, okay? If you know you're in the repeater and you get a tone, it means the time slot's busy, okay? Anyway, there are over 600 talk groups available, and here's some of, this is an old list. And it's available on the web for you to find out. There's groups for Reddit, there's groups for outdoor hikers, there's ties into Fusion and D-Star. I haven't played with those, but they're buggy. The intermix of the analog and Fusion and D-Star to DMR doesn't quite play right. So if you're doing one of those mixes and one of us comes on, have been monitoring, it sits up and says, hey, quit, something's not right, please, by all means, quit until we talk to Brandmeister and figure out how to get it worked out. It's still being worked on, okay? Now, let's say you come up to Kansas City and we don't have Northwest or Southwest Missouri full-time on that time slot. You want to go talk on Arkansas, which is not in our standard code plug. You contact somebody and say, what do I do? I tell you, I don't care, have fun with it, just do it on slot 1. Program it in your radio on slot 1. You're ready to go. I don't care. It's there. The Backyard Repeater Group puts our repeaters on for you guys, not for us. You'll never see an individual call on a Backyard Repeater Group. It's all WD0YRG, it's a club call. We've had our own calls on repeaters. We've had our glory days. And frankly, my arm's getting too old to pat myself on the back, so we put it on for you guys. And the more of you that are using it, the happier we are. That's why it's exploded up in Kansas City. All we do is ask that you put anything that is not standard in the code plug on slot 1 in a BYRG repeater. Typical examples, you can instantly tell whether you're on a Mark or a Brandmeister repeater by 2 talk groups. DMR Mark has the low numbers, Brandmeister has the ones that start at 90. And then we've got some talk groups that are bridged between the two networks that have the same number. Now, what are the TAC channels? The TAC channels are your BS channels. You guys have been down here. How many of you have operated USA or 3100 on Brandmeister? It's a cesspool, ain't it? I'm sorry, that's the simplest way to put it, right? You're supposed to make a call on 3100 and take somebody over to the TAC channel. Does that rule get followed? Hell no. There are people that think 3100 is their home. If I had my choice, 3100 would not be available on the Kansas City repeaters. It has burned up a repeater due to the dribble on it when it was full time. When we first put the repeaters on, 3100 was full time. We had no choice to turn it off. Now we have a choice to turn off anything we want, including the ones that we have static. But it's really a headache, and there have been a lot of discussions about the mess on 3100. I asked people in Kansas City to not use it. We have people that just key it up just to listen. Don't. Get the app for your phone, please. You're tying up a repeater just so you can listen to some activity. No, please don't. These repeaters aren't cheap, you know, and I wish you wouldn't. Just use the app. Yes, sir.
What is this app you're talking about? What does it mean?
If you have an Android, it's called Brandmeister Live.
Okay.
Okay?
Is it on Google for it?
Yeah, it's on Google. Yes, it's called Brandmeister Live, and let me pull it up here because I've got it, and I believe it's 2.0. It's also called Hose Line. Okay, it actually pulls up the Hose Line webpage, and you can select individual talk groups to look at. Okay, and listen to. It's basically a scanner for your phone, okay? You can also find it on a normal laptop. I can pull up an internet browser right now and go to brandmeister.network, which is the key dashboard page, and you can go to last heard, you can go to individual talk groups and listen. You can pull up, well, they had an archive server crash, which we lost the last year's worth of conversations, but if you've got a radio and somebody's telling you your audio sounds like crap, you can pull it up on a talk group that you're on a hose line, and it's got a VU meter and a spectral meter, so you can watch and see how loud it is. Okay, besides the parrot. The parrot is the main reason to test audio with on your stuff. Time slots for 2 conversations opens up a numerous months of possibilities. Yes.
Jay had a question.
What's up?
Is there an iOS version of that software, or is it just that?
I can't answer that. No, so habla Apple. I have an iPhone for work. So in other words, after it's off my working hours, it gets turned off. So I can't answer that. If it's not, I'm sure it's probably in development because I've seen a lot of the DV Mega stuff is starting to flop over. They've got an iBlueStack now, so they're starting to develop that. If not, let one of us know. I'll get a hold of Rudy or Arden and one of those guys to see if they've got one in the works.
You can hear it on iPhone. You just go ahead and make the app yourself. You just go ahead and put a shortcut on the.
Okay, Dennis is the man to answer that, so if you don't want questions to Dennis. Well, I'm talking about Dennis right here. Dennis wanted to join our little party. So in order to do that, this little box right here is a Motorola 8300 and a duplexer. This is going to be the Nevada, Missouri 443-975 DMR repeater. The BYRG is donating it and giving it to Dennis and telling him to get the damn thing on the air. We're tired of looking at it. All right. So this is going to be handed off to Dennis tonight after I reprogram it. I love DMR because it's put the fun back in ham radio for me. I've made donations to different parties and clubs to advance the spread of DMR. My goal before I drop, and this is coming from a guy who's had 5 bypasses and a series of heart attacks over 2 years, didn't know it. Yeah, I've got scars. I would love to see the major highways in Kansas and Missouri covered with DMR on Brandmeister. Now, the reason I say that is Iowa has exploded. Oh my God, they put on 20 repeaters in 3 months. And I mean, they're going crazy. They got it in all the National Weather Service offices up there and everything. I was talking to the guys up there. They were supposed to meet us up at Dayton. And unfortunately, that meeting didn't happen. The guys from Iowa know that they can come down on our repeaters and put Iowa 3119 on time slot 1. Once they get Kansas City, they're talking back to Iowa like they're in Iowa. That's the nice thing about Brandmeister. There is, excuse me, as long as you clear with the SysOp, if I go to California, which I'm supposed to do after the first of the year, I've already contacted the trustees out there on Papa Sys and everything like that, and I go, what do you guys want? They said, put it on slot 1. I'm back on BYRG, back to Kansas City, like I'm in town. Not only that, Dennis and James and everybody else has, and I'm sure Dennis probably showed you guys, I know I've got it in here, but I didn't break it. Probably showed you the DV Mega hotspot. Have you guys seen those yet? What's a hotspot? A hotspot's a nice little toy. All these bags. What the hell did I do? Trust me, it ain't that small. I couldn't have lost it.
Might check vehicle for you.
Yeah, booze. Anyway,
I've got mine. You want me to bring mine in, Chuck?
oh, you want to? A hotspot is a 10 milliwatt. Mine's a dual band, which means I can go on 2 or 440. Hey, wait a second. I brought the. It's in here somewhere because there's the battery pack. I got to throwing stuff in this bag like you wouldn't believe before I left, guys. Anyway, it's plugged onto a Raspberry Pi 3. My Raspberry Pi 3 talks to a cellular hotspot modem. And when I first made my first trip with it out to Ohio last year, I'm driving down I-70, talking back on BYRG off of a simplex DMR frequency, talking directly to my hotspot that I got my program and radio synced up with. And the guys thought they kept trying to get me to come to Breakfast Club up at college in Quivira. Well, guys, it's going to be a 9-hour drive. I have to turn around. Where the hell are you at? I'm in Indianapolis. No, you're not. Yeah, I am. I mean, that's the nice thing about having a hotspot and being on the road is that you can continually stay in there. Anyway, back to the time slot fiasco. 2 time slots, if one of them's busy, you're going to have to get in line. That's all there is to it. This is the dashboard. This is an old picture of the dashboard. It tells me how long you talked, who you are, what repeater you're on, what talk group, what time slot, what mode, your signal strength, your level, and how long you talked. We can see everything. Okay? When I built the code plugs that I've recently taken down off BYRG, because they have to be severely updated, and they will have the TYT delineator on it. I put in a dummy number, and what that does in the user's number, you have to put in your user EMR mark number. The reasoning is because if you don't, Brandmeister doesn't acknowledge you as an active hand. You only get your local repeater. So every time, without fail, when I put an update on the code plug out, I was always getting IM from a certain group of people on the parrot doesn't work. Or I can't get anybody to talk to me from Peculiar if I'm on the mission repeater. The reasoning is because you'll have the local repeater, and Brandmeister will see that number, and it'll go, I'm not passing you through the network, so it shuts you down with the local repeater, which means no parrot, no nothing. So when I get them calls, I come in here on the dashboard and I look, the number that I put in our code plugs is 9,999,999. Okay? It's not ever gonna be that number in DMR Mark world. If it is, everybody's giving up on all other modes, we're all DMR, right? I look and there's, every time it pops up, I'll see it 15, 20 times in an hour's time after I release a code plug up. People get the radio. We don't know how that happens. Is it Jay? I think Jay's got caught once or twice about it. Just pull it off the web and dump it in their radio. I'm ready to go. Guess what? No, you're not. You didn't put in your number. So don't call me bitching that the parrot don't work. So I go back and I say, did you put in your number? You get crickets from the other end. All of a sudden you start seeing their number start to show up. About a half hour later you hear, I don't know what it was, everything's fine now. So, yeah, right. Like Chuck can't see all this on the dashboard. Okay, anyway, there's a couple of web pages. Like I said, this PDF will be available. I've made some changes of the listings of the Kansas City repeaters because I realized this morning at 3 o'clock that it was old, so I updated it. So, what did I do? Okay, how would DMR play in a public service or volunteer world? It would be ideal, and the Backyard Repeater Group is developing this. All of our, not all of them, majority of our repeaters, oh, by the way, here's Dennis's hotspot. Mine's bigger. Okay? Mine's not this small. You got a dirty mind. Because you chuckled way too quick. So anyway, we're building a network because I can see the advantages of having a DMR network for emergency systems. Now, you guys have done the MS rides, you've done all this other stuff. How many times have you had to have 2 or 3 nets going on the same function at the same time? Okay? Different repeaters, right guys? Or simplex. You never get the same coverage out of all the systems. Somebody loses somewhere along the route. Am I right or wrong? Okay. Here's the nice thing about DMR. With the 2 time slot capability, I can have a general net on time slot 1 and have all emergency traffic go over on time slot 2, and they've got the exact same coverage. Now, another interesting thing when we got into this and everybody started growing on it in Kansas City is our default code plug has 13 talk groups in it. Worldwide, North America, Kansas, Missouri, 0 district, tax, BYRG, stuff like that. And you gotta understand, every one of these talk groups is going through the same piece of RF hardware up on that rooftop, right? The same repeater. They're all hitting the same thing, no matter what talk group you're on. The talk groups are set up on different channels. There's 13 channels to a zone. You have to put a channel in a zone in a radio or you won't get access to it. So what happens is people would program their radios. They'd key up on worldwide. Then they'd move over to North America, see if they can hit the repeater on that one. Then they'd move over to 0 district and key it up. Then they move over to Kansas, then they move over to Missouri. Now realizing that they're keying up on different talk groups on the same piece of RF hardware. I mean, I would see the same call sign go, I could watch them go through their channel list, channel selector on the radio. Ding, 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 ding. I contact them, I go, guys, why are you doing that? Well, I want to see if we can get the repeater. Did you hit it once? Yeah. Well, you're going to hit it all 13 times. Because it's the same repeater. It's just a different channel. Same television, you just looking at a different channel. Okay? So DMR is not your daddy's ham radio. It doesn't play the same way. But in the public service world, or where we do the events, the advantages of it and the possibilities are endless. We have got a network that we've installed. And I don't know how many of you know or have heard of Court Buffington, N0MJS out of Lawrence. Court has reverse engineered the Motorola networking protocol. He has reverse engineered the homebrew repeater protocol, or what they call the MMDVM protocol. And he, along with N4IRS and N4IRR, Mike and Steve, or Steve and Mike Zingman, have merged those two formats and made a network that will take Motorola repeaters like that one, or the SLR that James has up on Cox and that we have on our admission site, the homebrew repeaters, the hotspots, and make them all talk together. So what we're doing up in Kansas City is, I was in Ohio, and how many of you guys love Micro Center? Yeah, well, guess what? The flagship is up in Columbus, Ohio. How do I know that? Because while I was in there, everybody with a Micro Center tag told me it was a flagship station or store. So I bought what they call a Pi drive. It's a terabyte drive that plugs into a Raspberry Pi 3. Don't know what I was going to do with it. I just bought the thing. I thought it was cool. Okay. This thing comes along with Steve and Mike that we know, Bob and I, W0QX and I know, and in court, we got thinking, okay, let's build our own network using this stuff. Well, we'll have to buy a server. Steve goes, no, just put it on a Pi. So light bulb goes off. Of course, you gotta understand, my light bulbs are a little dim except for Christmas time, so it takes a while for the light bulb to go off. I go, hey, Bob, I got a Pi drive. I'll send it to you. Put it on the net. Let Steve have access to it. Set it up. He set it up. I'm in Ohio on a hotspot. Bob's got one of our Motorola repeaters, booth repeater pointed to it. He's got a homebrew pointed to it. He's got his hotspot. And then Eric N0MIJ's tested it out, so it's working fine. So what we're gonna have, since majority of the backyard repeater group's network is on a same ISP and their own redundant microwave, if an event comes to Kansas City, we will pull all the repeaters away from Brandmeister and point them towards that private network, and we'll have our own sectionalizable regional, where we can make it regions, and limit the talk groups, emergency network for DMR, for any event that comes through. So that's in development.
So you're brick walling the whole thing. It's like a firewall around it, so if something happens, nobody can get in.
With our ISP having their own microwave and not relying on the internet, if for God's sakes the internet went down, of course we'd see a lot of suicides, but if the internet went down, we will have the capability of having our repeaters still network together in full functionality of DMR.
But considering Korea and all the kind of stuff going on there, just out of curiosity, is this something that the DMR committee is seriously looking at, to have redundancy, just in case something
I don't
does
know if
happen?
the DMR community is doing it. A lot of people are talking about it. We're actually implementing it. Whether we'd like to see it rolled out by the end of the year. There's a lot that we have to work out. Number one, there'll have to be a certain zone created in all the radios. The mapping that would allow only certain talk groups to be functional has to be done on the servers. And I haven't had the chance to play with it. So I think the end of the year would be ideal for a time frame. Spring would be ultimate. I'd really like to have it in place by spring. And then with James, we could probably even tie Nixa and you guys down here in if we come up with some way to hop outside of the internet between here and Kansas City. The possibilities are endless. And it's really, really not that expensive. It is for us because we're plopping repeaters out like candy. Okay? And then on top of that, I'm giving them away. Okay? You better smile. Don't spin it back there with a smirk. Give the guy a repeater and he can't even give you a smile. What do you guys think of that? You know? Anyway, honestly, this has given us and put the fun back into it. I mean, it's the possibilities. And I give Jay a hard time, and Jay and Jerry, KC0KW, and Van, or K0XM, we've teased each other about DMR and Fusion. I will not, it's teasing. I will never, ever get into an argument about the merits between one digital mode over another, because guess what? They all have their place. They all do their stuff. That's like trying to argue religion. Who has ever won in an argument about religion? Okay? Or politics. It's wasted time, folks. We've got other things to spend our lives on. I'm not gonna argue this crap. So Jay and I have joked around. Kind of funny though, he moves down here to Springfield and he's still on DMR. Did you sell the fuse? Oh, okay, fine, you got a fusion. Anyway, that's what we're looking at. The ultimate would be an actual fallover where it would be automatic if we lost our internet, that would drop and keep our networks together, and that's gonna have to be played with our own individual backbone. So that's gonna take some time, but yes, it is, we've actually started on it, and there's been enough, we need to do this, or I wanna do this type talk. That's why we've kind of jumped on this. When we put the first repeater on, I come back from New Jersey, and I got with Lee and Bob at the Shrine Hamfest 2 years ago. And I said, this stuff is great, we gotta try this crap, right? Lee calls me, he leaves for about a half hour, he comes back, he walks up and he hands me an 8300. I said, where the hell did you get this? He goes, I had it in the barn. I'm scared to go in your barn, dude. He goes, yeah, I got a 1.2 sitting in there too. I said, I don't even want to go in your barn, because then I'm gonna have to find a hole for a 1.2, and that ain't happening. He goes, Motorola can't get it on the ham band. See what you can do. Well, I hacked it to get it go below 450. Okay, it was what they call developmental firmware. Duracom out of Kansas City makes power supplies for these. It was the one that was Motorola took to Duracom, said, designed a power supply. And so we put it on at our mission site. It was not networked. There was only a few of us that knew about it. And we've been putting on repeaters since the mid-'80s on UHF Kansas City. Now, those of us that put on repeaters know that it's an uphill battle to get decent coverage. We're running around town on one of these on rubber duck inside the car, like we're standing next to it. We're going, this thing is a godsend. This is the greatest thing we ever had. So we got a real repeater and networked it, and we announced it on Larry's list. Well, at that time, there was only like 5 users. At that time. All these people sprung out of the woodwork. We've been waiting for this. Who are you guys? What are you? We're all running Motorola's. What happened? Well, there used to be the Plaza repeater that disappeared, and we didn't know if it was coming back on, but you guys have got these on, and we can use our radios again. We went from 5 users to over 70 users in 2 weeks' time without buying the Titeras. We were shocked. Now in Kansas City, 90% of our users are not running any more than this running around town inside the car. We have been very blessed with our mission site and our peculiar site. The coverage is phenomenal. We could be up at the airport and work the repeater of peculiar off a handheld. Okay? Now, right now we've got 4 in play. I have really gone away from the PowerPoint, folks. So, 443.1 is near 35 to 635. That was our flagship. That's the SLR 5500 that we got. This is the first time in 40 years I had people coming up to me, handing me money. Now, the backyard repeater group has always been on a tap water budget for our whole length of time, which means if we don't get it for nothing, we don't get it. Okay, so I've got people handing money to me. I look at Lee and Bob and say, what the hell are we supposed to do? So it was 6 months. We decided, all right, fine, we'll get the money collected, we'll buy us a nice repeater, since we've got the user base, right? You understand, the tap water budget that we were on, we were stealing water from the neighbor's hose. That's how cheap we are. So, the next one is in peculiar 444.025. It's right off of J Highway and 49. We've joined with the Platte County group. We have 444.05 that we put on, and I can stand at the antenna and see the runways of KCI. And that's given us coverage up to just shy of St. Joe. We had a site in Pleasant Hill that was right in Peculiar's footprint on UHF. We're moving it out to Holden, which is on the west side of Warrensburg. Okay? Pleasant Hill is going to be going to 2 meters. I bought a fusion repeater in Dayton, which scared a lot of people because they thought, oh crap. Now, now we got all these DMR radios, Chuck's gonna want us to go buy fusion radios now. No, I bought it with the intention of hanging what they call an MMDVM on it, making it a real repeater. It's a joke, it's a joke, and making it a DMR repeater, putting it on DMR. A lot of people around the world have done it. And it's going on 2 meters at Pleasant Hill. And we're looking for a site in Olathe still. I still haven't, Jay, I've only been back a month.
Okay.
All right, I haven't had a chance. That's the last UHF hole that we need to cover the metro area, the Kansas City metro area. The Garmin Club stepped up on 2 meters and put one on 145.23. So both bands are covered in Kansas City. We will be placing a second one at the Pleasant Hill site. Now, what is not on here, and what I can't really go into detail, Labor Day weekend, folks, if you're in Kansas City and you have a 2 meter DMR, keep your ears peeled. We will be rolling a repeater over, and that's all I've got to say about it at this point, because I've been asked not to say anything until Labor Day weekend when we actually throw it on. Also, we have given word out that we put a repeater on, and I have gotten flooded with emails and phone calls and text messages. Where is it at? All I'm going to tell you is that there's a 2 meter repeater. It's going to be happening Labor Day weekend and Kansas City on DMR. It's going to happen. Let me get it in place. Don't indulge me with emails and all this other stuff. And I understand James and the guys are going to be working on putting ears on. So.
I have another question over here, Chuck.
Yeah.
Have a question.
Yeah, Kansas, Missouri, or Kansas, which one?
We try to straddle the state line.
Oh, in the middle.
The one in the mission site is right down I-35 near 635. We got UHF on there. That's where the 2 meter is going. Okay, that should be covering majority of the Kansas City metro area. Plus, I'm from God's side of the state line. I'm from Kansas. Okay. Okay, here's the coverage of our mission repeater. This is a rough calculation. Okay. This was an online coverage by my radio mobile that I just threw together real quick, and trust me, it's very rough. It has a lot heavier coverage than that. This is our peculiar site. How accurate is that, Dennis?
Is that the beta?
Yeah.
It's active.
Okay. Okay, so peculiar worked out better than Pleasant Hill or Mission on the calculation. These are the 5 active UHF sites that we have right now and what covers on DMR in Kansas City. These are on the air. These are active. You can go, and there is a new zone in the BYRG code plugs. It's called the Kansas City BYRG zone. Starts at Mission, goes to Peculiar, goes to Booth, goes to North Kansas City, goes to Pleasant Hill. And also thanks to Court in the K0USY system to the west, you can follow on Court's repeater going on I-70 all the way to Hays, Kansas on BYRG and talk back into town. And those are included in there also. We're working on it east. Randy N0KQG is in St. Charles, and Jacob AD0JA has his in Wright City on Brandmeister. They also have BYRG is static out there. So for Kansas and Missouri, BYRG, thank you, okay, for using it, has been pretty much where the activity has been. It's almost like a state, dual statewide local channel. Active repeaters in Kansas City. As you can tell, and these are all got DMR involved with them in one way or another, folks. Our mission repeater, our peculiar repeater. Johnson County, or Shawnee Club, 145.21 has a dual mode, analog and DMR. It is not networked. Motorola 8300s, when they do dual mode, 2 meter or analog and DMR, Motorola will not let you network it. Okay? 145.29 is the same way. I had a conversation here with some guys who wanted to go on DMR here. Well, it was probably about last November. Wanted to get into it, had a bunch of analog repeaters that were networked, and wanted to know what I would think if they converted them over to straight DMR. Would they play? Yeah, they would play. I said, but you would be burned in effigy. All right. it's my opinion, and you, Jay and I have both heard in Kansas City, somebody shows up on DMR on the 2.9 repeater alone, you get a lot of jamming and a lot of dead carriers going on analog. A lot of people don't like the possibility of going digital. And the 146.91 Fusion was another one. A lot of people, and it's their right. I'm not saying it's bad. They have the capability where they don't want to go get digital radios, be it Fusion, D-Star, or DMR, or whatever. But they also don't want to hear this crap coming out of the radios. So a lot of them, a few of them, not a lot of them, a few of them decide I'm going to get dead key on it and prevent it from being used. It's not right, but it does happen. Okay, 146.835 is a DMR only. It is not networked down in Mission. It's Mr. W0WJB's is down off of a 95th and Metcalf. Dan Turkish or K0DAN has a private home-based low coverage repeater in Lee Summit. The KU0K baser repeater, monster repeater, 442 even of a baser. It's on the Court Buffington K0 USY network. We've got our Booth repeater, got the Platte County repeater near the airport, got the Olathe repeater on Garmin. These are supposedly the Warrensburg repeater is on. Mr. Duncan has emailed the group. I haven't heard anybody that's been able to use it and talk on it. So that's why I say it's status unknown. This one evidently has just gone back on the air. 442.1 is earmarked for Olathe area, and then Pleasant Hill 2 meters. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of DMR activity. And this doesn't include Springfield, Bolivar. Fulton's got one on, I believe.
Oh, and Gary's here tonight too, the Bolivar repeater trustee.
Hi, Gary. Welcome to the rabbit hole, as we affectionately call it.
Where's the cookies?
I knew you were going to be here. I ate them on the way down. What is our desired coverage area for DMR? You guys are going to love this because we really, really have you at heart when we want to be able to cover it on DMR like this. Okay? The backyard repeater group is not responsible if your radio takes a swim while using it in your coverage area. All right? And it's all about the echo. And those of you that have heard Bob on the radio knows that he spends a lot of time talking from one of those and there's an echo. How does DMR cover so well? Jay remembers this from my early talks. Fairy dust. Hell, I don't know, it just does. That's all there is to it. Got some resources here. A lot of Titeras in this room, right? The MD380s, 390s. That's what you guys are using. Get Tom's software. N0GSG software. Go to BYRG.net. I've got a link. Only download it from Tom's page. This thing is the cat's meow. You can download a code plug from almost any manufacturer except for Hytera and Motorola and convert it to the other manufacturer in that software. You can copy individual zones. Just copy and paste the zone and it'll move all the information, talk groups, and everything over. And the reason I don't have my MD 2017 dual band handheld here is because it's in Tom's hands so he can put it in his software. Okay? Now, one radios are good. Titera, MD380, MD390, MD 2017. 2017 is a caution. They really went to Walmart on the antenna connectors and people have been breaking them left and right. Motorola's. Want a Cadillac, buy a Cadillac. Motorola's are coming down in price. The first generation 6550s handhelds, excellent radios. My Cadillac there is a 7550. I have one of those also on 900. Okay. Terra. This is my workhorse. I can drop this in the toilet. It will not have a problem. It is IP67 rated. It is sold by PowerWorks, the Anderson Power Pole Company. They have them on 2 meters and 440. Now, understand DMR radios will do conventional amateur also, but it's not got a VFO on it. You're not gonna dial it up like you would a Kenwood F6. You have to do it off. The radios are starting to become front panel programmable, but I caution you. If you're on an existing channel and you decide to write a new channel into your radio, what's it going to do with your existing channel? Your existing channel that you put in off your computer is gone. So you'll see in the BYRG code plug scratch pad channels, analogs and digital. That way if you got, like if I come down here and I wanted to program in an analog to 440, I would go to one of the analog scratch pads and program it in there. That way all my digital or computer program channels stay the same and untouched. So be very careful of that when you're doing front panel programming on any of the radios. They will override what channel you're on. High Terras, really good radios, commercial quality. Kirasun. Connect Systems is a very good dealer to deal with and produces a good quality unit. They have the first DMR mobile, dual band mobile out on the market. I have one in my truck if anybody wants to see it. It is 40 watts on both bands, does both 2 meters and 440 analog and DMR. TYT or Tytera is supposedly releasing their MD9600 soon, which is going to be a dual band. That radio I am a little apprehensive on. I'm going to hold my breath. And Jay will tell you, and the guys at Kansas City know that I've made it a point, all new radios, I've actually bought one. There's going to be a hell of a fire sale here from Kansas City one of these days. Watch Larry's list real close, folks, because I've had the Connect Systems MD580, or the CS580. It's now in N0 MIJ's hands. Jerry out of Connect Systems produces a very good quality piece of equipment. Dan up at Associated is starting to be able to get Connect Systems locally. The service on them is phenomenal. My concern, and don't get me wrong, I've got a 380, 390 and an MD 2017 Tytera. I understand they are throwaway radios, even a dual bander. You're not going to get the support from the Chinese company that you would from a Motorola or a Terra or a Connect Systems. Basically, there was a little email going around on Facebook here but last week with these MD 2017s and the people breaking antennas. One of the guys did actually email Tytera, and the email response was, yeah, we know, too bad. And he actually published the email on Facebook. So they took a hit pretty bad on that. In the meantime, they have gone and supplied all their vendors with replacement antenna connectors. And there are tons of videos on how to do it. That's the only caveat I have about the 2017. That is stupid trackball. The best solution to that, I saw a guy pull it out, put crazy glue on it, let it sit for 3 hours and put it back in the radio where the trackball had no functionality at all.
John, have you seen the new firmware update on that?
I have not yet.
Pound sign locks the trackball.
Hmm.
And have you seen, what's your thoughts on the Anytone? Are you gonna look at it and do any testing?
I have talked to Jerry about the Anytone at Connect Systems. And he's going to be getting the Anytone in, which is a dual band handheld. And Jerry has been raving about it. Now, I trust Jerry. I've had his equipment. I have his equipment. It's all good quality stuff. They have been very prompt on any issues that I've had. I had a 2-meter DMR. The display went out. I sent it out to them. They sent me a brand new unit within a week with my programming in it. I mean, you can't ask for better service than that, okay? So I'm very happy with Connect Systems. He will be getting in the Anytone, and I told him when he does, I want one. But then, of course, it helps when you're walking through Dayton, and you don't realize they're running past your booth, and me and Bob walk by with our backyard repeater groups, and they call us out, and they call one over to talk to us, so, you know, we kind of got a little in on that, so I'm kind of keeping my ear to ground on that one, but, yeah, it's, I would really want to see one of the Anytones. I'm really interested in it. The main thing I can tell you about DMR, folks, is it ain't daddy's ham radio. The 2017's got a VFO mode in it. Why? It doesn't function the same way a VFO should in a ham radio. At least I haven't played with it enough to see where it does. And you gotta walk into it knowing that this is, let me ask this question. How many of us in our lifetime have owned a Motorola radio? How many have, that were not a crystal radio, that was a programmable radio? Okay? You gotta use the computer to program it, right? Think of the DMR the same way. You know why? It's a commercially based radio, folks. It's not a ham radio. But God, we're having a blast with it. You know? Okay, I've rambled enough and made myself look like a fool on Facebook and everything else. Do we have any questions that have popped in? There are no dumb questions.
Is there a current mobile radio that you could recommend?
MD or CS800 Delta.
CS800?
Delta. Now, you gotta be careful. CS800 is just a UHF. 801 is just a VHF. The Delta is a dual band. I have it out in the truck. If you guys want to see it, I'll feel free to let you pop underneath it and look.
What's the manufacturer, Chuck?
Connect Systems. Yes, Connect Systems. So, anyway, let's chat. I'll get you on code plug. If you got time slot to talk group alignment set up.
My expert walked out the door, I think.
What? Go corral him. No, I'm kidding. Any other questions, complaints? Did I go too fast? I don't have the normal deer to headlights looks from you guys like I normally get.
What's your concerns with the 9600 other than the fact that they've been processing it out on the market for, I don't know, I lost track, 2 years.
Yeah, you're like me.
Makes you wonder about the technology behind it, but.
One of the
what's
repeater admin, or the master server admins, Corey, N3FE, did a pre-pack when they did that last year. Not this Dayton, not the Dayton Xenia.
Yeah.
The previous year was DMR year at Dayton. It was
They've
obvious.
been promising it.
What's all the delays?
Yeah.
Why can't they produce it? That's my concern. Will I jump on it when it first hits out? No. Number one, I got my 800D. Okay. Will I probably have another one, or probably get a 9600? Probably, because somewhere along the line, a user's going to get it and go, how do I do this? That's why I buy a lot of the radios. I'll let everybody else be the guinea pig on that one. I've guinea pigged a lot of radios, right, Dennis? And Jay, every time there was a while there, everybody turned around, it's out. Let's see if Chuck's got it yet.
What's your frank opinion on the 2017, since that seems to be the darling of the.
I'm a tech. That antenna connector scares me.
Yeah.
I don't have the eyes nor the facilities anymore to do the repair. Other than that, it's a pain in the ass to program. I've got a code plug ready for the Kansas City area, but man, did it take a while. There's also a hiccup, and that's why Tom has the 2017. You get the 2017, yes, you can import a MD380 code plug. But guess what? We've got code plugs for VHF and UHF. You import one, and you import the other one, the first one's gone. Why is there no merge in there? So that's why I handed that radio to Tom and said, here, make it work on your software. Tom will have that availability. Of course, also when the 800 came out, the 800 Delta, I sent Tom a code plug that I worked up from Indiana, mind you, I was in Indiana, and the software, and he had it in Contact Manager before it actually hit the market. So Tom's software is, in my opinion, it cat's me out. It is the ultimate software for helping the guys do DMR programming. Now, if we could just figure out a way around this Motorola crap, it'd make life real simple for all of us. Okay? But Motorola's not going to let anybody mess with their stuff. Other than that, I guess we'll wait and see on the 9600. You know?
I'll be the guinea pig on that one, so.
There you go.
I've got one supposed to ship out on the 10th. Now it's next day, the 18th.
Yeah.
Now, see, you gotta understand, those of us that remember when dual band radios first hit the market back in the seventies, eighties, they were a single band at a time. That's how the Connect Systems 800 Delta is right now. It's not a dual watch. Okay, plus if you did it in Kansas City, you could be listening to BYRG on the 2-meter repeater, and you go key up on UHF on BYRG, guess what? You're still coming out the speaker. Okay, so in that aspect, a single band at a time is the ultimate, in my opinion. I can see where dual watch, because number one, we've gotten used to it. I mean, hell, I've got a 742, I can listen to 3 bands with it, which I'm in the process of unloading, finding all my analog equipment unloaded. I'm just, is DMR the future of ham radio? I don't know. I've heard it called that. You know, was sideband the future of ham radio back then? Was AM, you know, CW, you know, stuff like that? No. Has it made a hell of a lot of fun? Oh, yeah. So, but some of this stuff that's coming out, now first of all, I will state this emphatically, and I started with a DV4 Mini. I ask, don't buy anything that starts with DV4. Their DMR support sucks. Bottom line. K0XM is one of our users up out of the Olathe area. He bought a DV4 home. He wrote, check it on eHam. He wrote a very honest and critical review of the thing about how it did not work when it first hit. One of the Facebook administrators for Wireless Holdings followed him around Facebook and found had him banned under any name that he'd come up with because of this review. That's not good customer relations in our business. You got a problem, fix it. Don't go shaking and making it known. I've seen the emails, Dave sent me the emails. I was shocked at this activity. That has sworn me off personally from DV4. Anything that starts with DV4. Plus, there are so many other options out there that work so much better. For hotspots, the open spot, I do not personally have one. I know a lot of guys that have them. They can cross mode from Fusion to DMR and back. Everybody that I know has one has really liked it. I love my DV Mega. My DV Mega does everything I want. It will actually do everything except for P25, and I think that may be along coming down. I talked to Gus at Dayton. I think he alluded to that. That may not be too far off. But it does Fusion to D-Star, DMR, everything. I mean, there are other options out there that you don't have the headaches that you will with the DV product, DV4 products. So, but that's, yeah. I mean, just wait to see what James got to say about the 9600.
Well, I'm out in sticks, so I need to, more than I need, I don't know.
Get an 800. We're out in the sticks.
Well, I'm about, I can hit the 443, 425 repeater with a handheld occasionally.
443,
442, 425?
425, yeah. But other than that, I need.
What is that, D-port or what?
No, that's the one over at Clever now.
So I'm thinking about having to build a 50 element beam.
It's analog.
I need something to get me out of there.
We could do like Dennis did. He bought him a hotspot.
Android based.
Mine's still bigger than yours.
I think that's all Android based right now, isn't it? I haven't checked for a while, but I think it's all Android based.
No, they've actually got an iBlue spot now. Blue stack, yeah. Yeah.
I haven't checked for a while on that, but that would be my other.
But then again, if you just got a Mega with a Pi on it, then it would do everything you need. You don't need Android or iPhone. That's how I do it. I have my Mega set up to talk to my cellular hotspot, either my work or personal. And once I turn it on, it finds that hotspot, it connects to it, and I'm ready to go. It logs into the server, and then I just change the channels on my handheld for different talk rates.
Yeah, Larry, you'd probably be surprised just with an HT hooked up to an outside antenna or something. I mean, Dennis is doing with his.
What I first used was a I owned a beam up on the side of the tower and worked peculiar with a handheld.
there.
I'd be surprised if you couldn't get into them.
We have been blessed with our coverage on Peculiar and Mission. I'm not gonna deny that one bit. It's just, DMR plays with the algorithm, and seriously, knowing where, I spent a lot of time, Jay and Dennis will tell you, I spent a lot of time driving around Kansas City programming people's radios, okay? And WA0RE is one of our users, lives in Lee Summit. And actually lives in a Faraday cage. Because I'm just gonna have to just put a repeater at his house, because that's all there is to it. And he's got a DV4, and our Peculiar site actually gives him some coverage. And it's also folded in where he's got it now with the foliage up. We thought it was just a winter type thing. But he's actually getting coverage again. So we've been blessed with our sites. I'm not gonna sneeze at him at all. And that and the algorithm and the functionality of DMR has just made it where, well, Bob's a good example. I watched him on the dashboard and he's an S0. He's at the minus 123, minus 124 dBm level. It's like he's standing right next to the damn repeater. You can't tell, you know. Now, you gotta understand, when you hear Dennis go digital on our systems, it's because I got a filter on there that makes sure he does that.
And Chuck, we've experienced with ours, when we had the 425 used to be on Coxtown Hospital, and we moved it out to the club here a few months ago, and we put the DMR. The coverage, of course, it's a different repeater, but it's the same antenna, the same coax, all that. The coverage has actually gotten better. There's places where I had a hard time getting mobile coverage, I can use my portable. So, I think Richard does his best and
Dennis has probably heard this. When we put the North Kansas City repeater on, we had a lot of people up that way anticipating it. DMR does not walk on water, folks. We put it on Thursday afternoon. I sweated my ass off. We went to Rudy Tuesdays afterwards. I drank 2 pitchers of iced tea myself coming down off that roof. And then from Thursday night till Saturday morning, all I heard from a couple of people was the bitching about how the coverage was and what they expected it to be. DMR does not walk on water. Come to find out that one person lives in a very bad RF hole in North Kansas City. And could we fill in? It's possible that we may be able to find some. He could hit our Mission repeater, no problem, but he wanted to be able to work North Kansas City, which I understand. But my problem was that he wasn't complaining on local 2 or local 9, which is just the local talk groups. He was complaining constantly on the talk group that was worldwide. Good example is earlier when we were talking, Prescott, Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona popped in. They saw us on the last third, programmed it into radio, and next thing we know, this guy's talking to us from Phoenix. That's how popular the BYRG talk group is. We picked up a lot of our users from outside the Kansas City area that way off the last third list. That was my problem, was that I can handle the complaints. But when we start getting people to dogpile that it's not covering, it doesn't walk on water, folks. We're trying what we can. So I jumped on there that Saturday morning when they were going at it again. 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'd only had 1 cup of coffee, which is not a good time to Chuck. And I said, well, here, guys, I'm heading out the door. How about I go up and turn it off and we go back the way it was? All of a sudden, the complaints stopped. We'll do what we can, all right? We put these repeaters on for you guys. All we ask, and this is from a guy back in the 80s, got a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning before cell phones. Hey, your repeater's off the air. Who are you? I'm just, listen, I don't use it. Well, how the hell did you get my number? And why are you calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning? On my home phone, you tell me my repeater's on. I know it is. I turned it off at 10 o'clock before I went to bed. We have lives too. We will do it. We will get it done. It doesn't walk on water, but it will surprise you in the coverage and the activity on it. And all we ask, just
have fun.
Guys, if you can't have fun, there's two ways around it. Number one, there's called a channel selector. Number two, it's called a power switch. I'm sorry, I hate to put it so blunt. If you can't have fun doing it, who knows? Maybe Rubik's Cube's in your future. That's all I gotta say. Anything else? Any other questions?
Is there any good tutorial for programming?
Yes and no. I've heard.
I found one, I'm kinda looking at, we may do that in another club meeting here pretty soon.
Well, here's the thing, and this hasn't been announced on Larry's list because I just confirmed it last week. As most of you know, you've been trying to get me down here. James has been trying to get me down here for a while, and I'm a road rat. I'm a field rat. And I've been here till the first of the year. I've secured the Johnson County Library at 87th and Farley for September 30th. It's gonna be a 2-hour class, and we're gonna do it right this time. People are gonna bring their laptops, their cables, and their radios, so we're gonna actually build a code plug from scratch. Okay? It's gonna be up at Overland Park, Kansas. The last two that I did got sidetracked real quick. And I didn't like them. If I can't do what I set out to do, I take it very personal, and this is gonna be my penance, is to make this done right. I actually told people to bring their computers, and one guy walked in with a desktop. No monitor, no keyboard, no mouse, just a desktop. And I'm going, we watched him walk by, and I'm going, I looked at one of the other, what the hell's he gonna do with that? So anyway, I swear to God, I mean, I laugh so hard sometimes. But anyway, is there a good tutorial? There supposedly is. The Iowa group has put them out. Be very wary, because there are a bunch of guys out there that says, oh, I know exactly how to do this. The next thing you know, you're going to buy another radio. And trust me, I've tried. It's hard to brick a DMR radio. Motorola's it's not, but the Titera's, yeah. So let James review that one. Go on James's recommendation. I haven't had the time. You know, I'm still trying to get caught up with the stuff that didn't get done while I was out of town. So, and I've got to bolster it, because if I go, like they say they're going to send me to San Diego for 5 to 6 years, I got to have this crap damn near brand new and indestructible. Because I can't fly because of my heart surgery, and it's a 31-hour drive from San Diego. I know, I did it, okay? So I'm not going to be running back every weekend to fix a repeater. So, anything else? Any other questions?
How do you create the code plugs, and what language do you use for it?
You use what they call CPS. It's customer programming software. Each manufacturer has their own. You start with two things. Number one, you put in your DMR mark number first. Number two, you put in your contact list of your group calls. Okay? Once you put in your contact list, this is where it gets to be real fun. You go down to your channels. You enter in your separate transmit, receive frequencies, your color code, your time slot, and your contact. For every contact that you want is a different channel. Okay? But you're not done. Because you can drop that into radio right then, but guess what? You'll never see it. You know why? Because once you compile them into channel list, you have to go back and assign them to zones. Now the Titeras, the Motorola's, and stuff like that are limited to 16 channels per zone. The new Connect systems, 760 that they released had some hiccups and they're getting worked out. Supposedly 160 channels per zone. Okay? My Motorola 7550, I have not found a limit yet. I've heard 125. Okay? I've got 13 channels in our normal code plug in each zone for each repeater. You know, it's basically that repeater set up with that color code with the individual code talk groups in the same order. I only use one talk group. Okay? If I see some activity or somebody complains to me they can't get a talk group or a time slot, then these radios, the Terras and the Connect systems have, in the promiscuous mode, allow me to go listen on that time slot to see who's doing what, where, and how, okay? But you have to use the customer programming software, CPS is what it's called. In correlation to that, to make life simpler, you get Tom's software. Tom's software will open up a code plug. Let's say you pull one of my code plugs off the web. And you've got a brand new code plug, but you know I've got the Nixa stuff in there correct. So you open up, you read, first thing you do when you buy a brand new radio, guys, and I've done it, and I shouldn't have, you read the damn radio and save the basic code plug from the factory. Okay? Store it somewhere safe. That way you can always revert back. Read the radio, save the code plug. Save a copy somewhere of it. Open it up in Tom's software. Open up the downloaded code plug in another instance of Tom's software. Set them side by side. Go to the zone button. Okay? Select the zone from the downloaded code plug. Copy there. Paste in there. Save it. Then go back into the CPS and write it into your radio. Piece of cake. Tom has really made it effortless. Okay? Does take some thinking. Okay? I've asked him to minimize that, or else at least have him pull up some more pictures, because it is me, okay? So, but yeah, he's really made it effortless. And when you go do his download, got a little button down the bottom, it's called PayPal. Make a small donation, because this guy has spent hours upon hours writing this software. And the smallest donation really goes a long way. Tom doesn't know this, but this 2017 that he has, that he got from me to write interface with the contact manager, I'm not going to pick up. That is Tom's radio now. That is my way of saying thank you to him for making my life so simple. I got Tom's software, and I had code plugs from traveling of 8 states. Not repeaters, states. Indiana alone had 14 zones. With Tom's software, I combined them all into one code plug.
Nice.
In about a half hour's time. Get it, guys. That's the only way to roll with this contact manager. He's done it right. Plus, he listens real well to suggestions, and he's easy if you bitch at him. Right, Jay?
Tom's probably one of the smartest guys that you'll ever be.
Yep.
He's very unassuming, but he's an amazing guy.
We laugh about fusion and everything, and I was over at Tom's house. And Tom's like me and James, we're on the edge of, we got no problem stirring a bucket, right? Well, we had joking around between myself, and Van used to be WA0PKF. Any of you guys know Van from Kansas City. He's K0XM now. We've always joked around that fusion has always been a chuck-free zone in Kansas City. Okay? Because I was pushing DMR, they were pushing fusion. Okay? Now, Bill and Van, I've known my whole, Bill WA0CW is the reason why I'm into ham radio. So, him and Van are really, people wonder whether they're married or not. They're not. They just spend a lot of time together. So, I give him a hard time. Anyway, Van had started this fusion as a chuck-free zone. So I was over at Tom's. And him and Jay were talking on one of the repeaters on fusion, and Tom has fusion radio. So I said, I wonder what they'd do if I jumped on there. So I'm sitting there. Tom rolls over to the FTM 400, goes in the menu, puts my call in the radio, hands me the mic and says, here, say hi. I said, well, what's going on, guys? And what was Van's response? You're not supposed to be here. So that's how much fun we've had with the DMR and the fusion joking around, guys. So, and Tom is rowdy enough, but Tom's software is the way to go for dealing with the Connect systems and the Titeras. And now he's also, and the tech, the Bridgecom cells, the D500 is an actual MD380 with tech names on it. Okay? I didn't find that out until he sold a bunch of them up at the Grandview Hamfest that I gave a talk. that I ended up giving the hour and a half talk and ended up spending 3.5 hours programming radios after that because they sold about 60 DMR radios at AmFest. A lot of them were the tech, and we found out that the Tytera code plug would drop right in. So, now, if you guys do quantity disc purchases, both Bridgecom and Associated Radio will work with you on getting quantities on MD380s and stuff like that.
So Bridgecom sells a tech radio, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Both dealers are really good about, because they see the public service aspect of this, where volunteer groups will be buying en masse, you know, and plus they're cheap. I mean, the price on the 380, excuse me, I haven't looked in about a week. What are they down to? About what, 65 a piece?
I haven't seen that cheap.
I know you can get them easily anywhere for 90 bucks a piece. So, any other questions? Yes.
I have an easy one. I've got the new software on mine, and if they get
Mine what?
Oh, I'm sorry, on the MD380.
Okay.
I know they got stuff where you press the right button, you can toggle your top group and whatnot.
Are you talking Ty's Tools?
Um,
There's your green and black screen when you turn it on.
I think mine's different. Mine is someone else. I think mine is K0XM I'm not sure who that is, but.
Yeah, neither am I.
But I was wondering, I know they got way where you can toggle, where you basically toggle your ID, your time slot, top group, and all that. Is there, have they get to make it to where you can toggle or add digital contacts via the radio?
No, I have not heard of that happening. Now, the prominent one right now, see, Travis Goodspeed started all that. He's a KK4 something. He's the one that first hacked it, and the first reports came out and said, look, the MD380 will do D-Star Fusion, DMR, P25, bullshit. I'm sorry. Sorry, Facebook. Won't do it. Okay? Got a lot of people happy. A lot of people started throwing radios and selling radios because they had one $90 radio that do the whole thing. Wrong. Okay, so anyway, other people have developed this. There's a KV4 that did it. It was basically set up, you had to do it under Linux. Okay? Then this guy here, this KG5, I think, which I've got it, and it's sad because I just download the stuff and just roll with it. I don't pay attention, and really hard, bad on my part. It's called Ty's Tools now. They've got it where you can change the screen to colors and all this other stuff. Now, there's a lot of discussion, can they enter a talk group on the fly? Not at this time. Okay? The caveat of that is that you can go to Brandmeister and you can download the entire talk group database in CVS format and put it in your code plug as group calls. Now, gotta be careful. The basic radio will only allow you to do 1,000 contacts. Any of them. That includes group calls and private calls. This radio holds the entire database. It holds the entire user database, all 66,000, in a separate CSV file. It does not touch your contact list. Motorola, you only got 1,000. Okay? MD380, out of the box, UHF, you only got 1,000. With the hack firmware, you can put the entire contact list on there. It stores it separate also. So you can put the entire Brandmeister talk group list in an MD380. People have done it. Okay, since they're only at 640 right now, there's 1,000 there. What was I going with this? The VHF MD380, you can put in the Brandmeister contact list, talk groups, but you're not going to put the entire user database in there because it's got a memory difference. It's only 4 meg, where the UHFs are 16 or 52 or 32 meg, and it will hold the whole database where the VHFs will not. So if you guys ever pick up a 2-meter MD380 to use the 2-meter repeater on, don't even try and put the whole database. Now the 2017, which who has the 2017? Is he still here?
No, he's gone.
He's gone. See, I told you guys I talked. They got the new software or firmware that allows the 100,000 plus contacts. Okay? The MD, or the CS800 Delta, Jerry hasn't announced it yet, but Tom reverse engineered it, and he found out it will handle 124,000 contacts. Guys, we're getting to that point where that's not even gonna be enough if we put the entire list in there. Now, from a programming of the code plug point of view, when I have a code plug that has all worldwide individual contacts in it, that's coffee time. And what I mean by coffee time is I open it up into CPS, I go make coffee and pancakes and sit down and come back half hour later, and then it's done loading. If I've just got group calls, I don't leave my seat. It's ready to go in a couple of seconds. That's the way it's affected by this, yes.
One of the things that's nice about Tom's software is that it will download the contact list from VMware.
Right.
And load that into your code plug. And you can qualify it by state or by city or whatever. So like, you know, I didn't put in that new bastardized ROM for my ME380. I'm still tied to 1,000. I can pretty much get most of Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas on the inside of there.
Actually, you can do it using Ty's tools because it will load it in the contact list in a user CSV. It will not import it, it will not show up in the code plug in the contact list. It's stored in another file on the radio. And it will draw from there, but you have to turn it on in the menu.
Right.
Okay.
So what's nice about having all of that on the inside is that you're seeing the person's call sign and maybe their name along with their DMR number.
Along them lines, Jay's heard me say this before, and I think Dennis has too in a couple of my presentations. If you're going to have the user's call signs in that contact list in your mobile radio, you are dumber than a box of rocks. Because the simple fact that you're not going to be driving down the road, looking at your radio to figure out who the hell's talking.
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong, folks? You do not want to have any distractions when you're going down the road. So the backyard repeater group is making it a statement that we will not put anything except group calls in our mobile contact, in our mobile code plugs. You do not need to be worrying about, you need to go old school, folks. You need to listen. You need to figure out who the hell's talking. Quit looking at the display. All right? And you do that mobile. On your handheld, I don't care. Okay? But in a mobile radio, I will not load in user members or user contacts. There's no point in it. Too much possibility. And like the caveat says, if your radio takes a swim, we're not responsible. If you load one of my code plugs and you get in a wreck because you're looking at your radio while you're driving down the road, we're not responsible. I mean, that's common sense, folks. It's fun. We just got to be used to it. Besides, you make James's job hard. Okay? Anything else?
This software, is this operating system specific? Meaning, does it only run under Windows, or does it run under Windows? and
Which
Linux?
software? Which software? We've talked about a couple of them.
Tom software,
Tom software is Windows-based.
figures,
Oh, you
or Linux.
oh, you're Linux?
Mhm.
Run it under wine. Run it under wine. Fire it up under wine. Not the bottle of wine. The encapsulator. Okay? It's like I got my cousins going, hell yeah, give me another shot. So, anyway. No, try it under wine. I don't know if anybody has. It'd be a good test and report back to them if it works. You know? So, anything else?
I have one question.
Yes.
Do any of these radios you're talking about have the ability to voice output?
Yes. I knew you were going to ask that. KY0 is also low vision. I guess that's the term these use today. And Craig has got the Connect Systems, and Connect Systems radios do have that capability, as do some of the Motorola's. He's got the Motorola MD5550 mobile, and when I programmed him I assigned a channel indicator for each channel and then sent him a list that he put in Braille via email that showed what channel, what repeater or what talk group was assigned to what channel that he can correlate. Now, the Connect systems and the Motorola's, Motorola you gotta pay. Of course, Motorola you gotta pay for everything, all right? I mean, if you lose the M on a Motorola on a sticker, you gotta buy the M back, okay? But it's Cadillac. It's good crap, okay? Connect Systems has the capability, they are still developing it. All the bugs are not worked out of it, but yes, there are radios available. The mobiles and the handhelds from Connect Systems will do specialized announcements for each button, for each zone, for each channel, for each talk group. However you feel comfortable, you set it up and you record what it says when you get that function. Okay? Or you could be like all of us and just leave it on BYRG and have it over with. So, anything else?
See, I've got a quick one.
Yes.
For all the DMR repeaters out there, how do you know which top groups they advertise or work with? There's some list out there that.
We try to set a default, the Backyard Repeater Group at BYRG.net has a default listing on our DMR info page which shows what our de facto full-time and user-activated talk group assignments are in our code plug. Now you gotta understand on Brandmeister, you have over 640 talk groups available to you, okay? I'm not putting them all in the code plug, okay? If you wanna go talk to France, you're programming that puppy on your own, all right? I try to keep them updated, that way people know what they're looking at, what we call roll your own code plug. All right, sorry folks, I gotta get some gum here, I'm now starting to go dry. You know I'm not gonna light up a cigarette. For those listening at home, you know. A lot of the groups do, and Repeater Book is starting to get more in tune with talk groups and time slot assignments on DMR repeaters. So you know what is standard on there. Well, once again with Brandmeister, if you're on a Brandmeister repeater, and you'll know right away, if the worldwide is 91, it's Brandmeister. If it's 1 for talk group number, then it's DMR mark, okay? Once you see the initial list that tells you what the number is associated with that talk group, you'll know right away. You'll have to contact the Brandmeister SysOp. Majority of us want you to use slot 1 for any new talk groups that are not in our quote-unquote de facto code plug. Okay? So if you go outside the normal 13 that's in the Backyard Repeater Group code plug, we ask you to use slot 1. It's a lot of fun, ain't it? Trying to figure all this out. What else? What's your 2 meter going on?
Well, I know the antennas and the coax are waiting on them to get ordered. So there's a long story behind that, but it's not gonna cost us anything, so when you, like you said earlier, when you're waiting for that free water, you can't complain a whole lot.
James and I have had a lot of discussions from when you guys started getting into DMR, and James knows my opinion on what I'd like to see DMR happen in the Kansas and metro area. My ears perked up when you mentioned a couple of your sites. Number one, Branson. We've got a lot of members up in Kansas City. They keep asking when I'm going to put a repeater down the lake. Okay? Van. Would I like to see it? Yes. It's like everything else. Repeaters aren't cheap, folks. They're a headache. There are times that I cuss them harder than I cuss my ex-wives. And it just takes time. So would I like to see Kansas and Missouri saturated in DMR signal? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Give me a Brandmeister repeater in every square inch of Kansas and Missouri, and I'll just have one radio I'll carry around. I'll be fat, dumb, and happy. I don't know how many of you remember the old day going to Hamfest, especially down at the old Kansas City airport. You'd see a guy walk by with 6 radios on his hip. Am I lying?
Hey, the Dayton, they had the belt weighted down all the way around.
You know what? We're almost back to that point between D-Star Fusion and P25. And so yes, when the Holy Grail comes out, that's going to do everything. We've joked about that. The trouble is now, between now and then, back then we didn't have the waistline for all the radios. Now we do. Okay, I've really developed my girlish figure. I could probably handle a 160 meter antenna on my waistline. So, but yeah, it just takes time, and our group is having a blast with it. This little donation here in my book is nothing. I'm glad to do it, and we're going to get the coverage out of it that'll help you guys around Nevada and stuff like that. And whatever you guys need in Bolivar that we can help with. What are you running at Bolivar? 8,300?
8,400.
Ooh la la.
Did I say it right? 8,400, yeah, really?
Well, if you'd have told me that on the phone, I'd have told you to go figure out how to program it yourself the other night. No. Yeah, anything you guys, all of our repeaters now are pointing towards the 3102 master.
My program there is to go to 3102.
Okay.
I'm totally ignorant. My electronics is 1960s.
And you're the trustee, right?
Yes, I am.
He's the perfect repeater trustee, guys. So, because
Being
those of us that
ignorant
do
helps,
know
huh?
can be dangerous as hell. Yeah, anything you guys that we can help you with?
Appreciate it, and somebody better have a hot ear handy when we need something.
Actually, the 8400s don't have that problem. You cut the brown wire on the fan where it runs full time and kick it back to about 30 watts, it'll last forever.
I didn't cut the brown wire.
Oh,
I
Shane,
know
did you?
this now.
Okay. And also, you can swap the modules on the 8300s if the transmitter dies. All they are mobile radios.
Well, my ignorance is showing again. That's what it looked like to me, that you could just swap them. The receiver breaks, you push it over to the transmitter side.
No, the receiver breaks, forget it.
Oh, you're out of business?
No. We're finding out that even on the module swaps, where this repeater, I'll show you guys what we're talking about.
When you get a chance, ask or tell us, what does a repeater system cost? What would it cost?
Brand new?
Or what could a person expect to have to pay if they move?
That little package right there, you can probably pick that up off of eBay for about $800. Okay?
And your antenna system?
Oh, there you go. You don't want to skip on the antenna and feed line. That's going to be your expense. You're not going to put up a diamond on a repeater and expect it to last forever. Excuse me, done it. Anyway, you're going to have to spend money on a decent antenna. DB420 or 408 on, you're talking a couple $100 used there just for the antenna. Your coax,
8 to 1200 new for it.
yeah, 8 to 1200.
408 to 420. But they'll last 20 or 25 years. So.
Oh yeah, they'll last. We've actually, I don't know how many times you've seen it, but I've actually seen them take lightning strikes and still fly. So, these are the modules I'm talking about. This is your transmit, this is your receive. They're both the same, just this one's got a hell of a heat sink on it. All the programming is contained in this unit right here. Now we found that swapping these on ones that I've picked up off of eBay, that we've actually had one unit come down where it had more of the entitlement packages, the high dollar options, in this unit than it did in this unit. Like encryption and all kinds of stuff that a commercial service would have to pay for. And which leads me to believe, number one, that they've swapped them before. So, but yeah, see, there's a brown wire right here on this plug you cut, James. So,
I think you can handle that one, can't you?
Well, I probably can.
It's
Is
like
that-
cutting the
is-
green wire in your AC to go out of band. Oh, wait, we didn't.
I had that done on one of my rigs and I didn't know.
but
You're talking about running the fan all the time?
full-time, all the time. Is it at your house?
No, it's on a somewhat inaccessible hill.
These are mobile radios, just like the fusion repeaters. They don't like heat. I don't care what they say, okay?
It's air conditioned.
Doesn't matter. The only thing that I will run full-time dead key reliably that I have no problems with is what you guys have got on and what we got on that Motorola SLR.
Now, you're talking about that's temperature turned on or keyed up turned on?
The minute it fires up, that thing's running at full speed. Whether it's transmitting or not, I'm blowing across there. 90% of your repeater sites are not gonna be temperature controlled. If it is, then you gotta fight condensation. Okay? And then watch on eBay, there's an 8300 that has gotten wet. You can tell it. Okay? And the guy keeps lowering the price. If he keeps publishing the same pictures, he ain't gonna sell it. Okay, because I mean, there's corrosion on the damn fan board. Okay, and water residue. Anyway, yeah, cut the brown fan and run it back to about 30 watts. It comes from the factory at 48 watts.
And we're turned down to about 30, right? Yeah.
Our workhorse, the SLR 5500 or 5550 that we have, our main brand new 1RU $2,000 Motorola, is our high power output at 55 watts. Every one of those repeaters on that map you've seen are running at the most 30 watts into the duplexer. Into the duplexer. Not into the feed line, into the duplexer.
That's what we'll be doing. We'll lose, what, 3 dB?
You won't notice it. You're not gonna notice it on DMR, guys. That's what's surprising us about DMR is how well it plays. So, in response to your question, you're probably looking, if you wanna do it right, 3,500, $4 grand.
Yeah. Depending how, it depends on how high you're going on the tower too,
Yeah.
And there's other things you have to buy to secure the coaxial tower and ground it.
It ain't the old day where we could just throw on a belt and climb.
Yeah.
I mean, I run into this at work in my profession. Like I was telling James earlier, power substation across the street, that's my profession. But I also, as a field engineer and construction manager for Black and Beach, I run into tower sites. That's what I was doing out in California. We had a company roll up out there that we had to hang a bunch of 10 gig microwave dishes on Mount Woodson. And they showed up with 10 guys. Only one of them had a climbing certificate. Guess how many guys went up the tower? One. And they couldn't understand why I told them to send the other nine guys home. I said, because I'm not paying them to watch you guys, you climb the tower. We paid a contractor for you guys to come climb this tower and hang these dishes. Now, unless you ate a lot of Wheaties, I don't see your ass up there 200 feet on that tower, on that mountain, hanging a 10-foot microwave dish by yourself. So we basically, but yeah, it's not like the day where we used to just throw the belt on and shinny up the tower and do the work. So you're gonna pay premium for a climber. So it's a lot different. And repeater sites are so hard to come up with these days. Too many companies see a cash cow. If it's an American Tower site, don't even bother wasting the call. I've had them hang up on me. 470 and 435, 1,100 foot tower, something like that. 3/4 of the antennas on there, 900 UHF, nothing's plugged into on the ground. But they won't rent to a ham. They'd rather have that antenna sit there vacant and not making them money as opposed to charging a ham group $25 a month and getting a little something. They just won't talk to hams because companies have had bad issues with hams coming in and putting in their Radio Shack boxes with their Radio Shack jumper clips. Okay? So you're going to pay premium either way you go. Repeater building's not for the faint of heart. 900 is nowhere near for the faint of heart. I mean, because it's even more headaches than DMR or anything like that. But yeah, if you want to do it right, you're looking at least $3,500, $4,000. Or you find somebody that knows the deal and keeps an eye out and finds it for cheap. Now, I've been buying these for $500 a piece all over. I get $500 to $800. Our North Kansas City repeater that we just put on 44405, I got it for $300 when I was in Ohio.
But that's the least expensive part of the repeater project.
Yeah. But on that hand, on the other flip side of that coin, is you've got to know you don't want to run it full smoke because the rumors are out there, the information is out there, they will die eventually. And unless you've hit Powerball, you want to minimize that cost. So, but it can be fun, it can be frustrating. Like I said once, I'll say it a million times, DMR is putting fun back into it again. So, funny story about the GPS. I had my Motorola, I was up in Ohio. Kenton, Ohio. Now we're talking small town, 5 restaurants. Pizza Hut, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Arby's, and Burger King.
There's a traveler business guy.
You betcha.
You gotta know what the important stuff is.
And the family restaurant was decent food, but I got tired of hearing Wilbur tell Homer how he plowed back 40 every day. So it was the opposite of the fine. So I leave the job site. I've got my Motorola on, going through my hotspot on BYRG. My phone rings as I'm walking into Burger King to get dinner. It's Dr. Smoke, W0NQX. I said, what's up? And he goes, I'll take a Whopper and fries. Run that by me again, I'll take a Whopper and fries. How the hell do you know I'm at Burger King? Then it dawned on me. He's watching APRS.FI, and he's watching me walk from my truck to the Burger King to get my dinner and calling me on the phone. That's how good the GPS works. We still laugh about that one. He never did get his Whopper and fries. So. But yeah, it can be fun at times, it can be frustrating. Like it doesn't walk on water type thing. You've got the users that you've got to sit there and know how to handle. If you don't have the patience to deal with a variety of personalities, you sure in hell don't want to put a repeater on. I'll tell you that right now, because you're going to run into all of them. You know, I don't care if you do have a life. You've got to keep my repeater going. Sorry, it don't work like that, you know. So, and it takes a lot these days for an individual to put a repeater on. There's a lot of cost outlay on it that a lot of people are not willing to start. I'm not saying there aren't people out there who won't do it, but it just takes a lot these days, not like back in the day. So, anything else? I need a cheater cord so I can program this repeater and hand it to Dennis to get it out of my hair.
Chuck, thank you very much.
The most we've had was 3.
Oh, that's cool.
I had 96 people tune in from time to time last time I saw.
Really?
Yep.
And that's going to be stored?